What really happened at the fall? Introduction. People are exhausted, not just tired physically, exhausted in their minds, exhausted in their spirits. People know what is right and still cannot move. People hear truth and continue walking toward destruction. Families are collapsing. Attention is collapsing. Peace is collapsing. The world feels fractured. And the strange part about it is, deep down, most people can feel that something is wrong, something is off, something happened to man. Now Babylon teaches us to think that all of this is normal. The anxiety, the confusion, the addiction, the noise, the endless distraction, the inability to focus, the inability to sit still, the inability to hear the voice of the Most High over the chaos of the world. And Babylon says, take a pill, numb it, distract yourself, scroll more, consume more, escape. But what if the problem is deeper than stress? What if humanity is experiencing separation? Babylon tells us this is just modern life. But what if this condition is much older than modern civilization? What if Babylon did not create the condition, but inherited it? What if the confusion of the modern world actually began in Eden? Because when most people read about the fall of man, they think the story is about a rule being broken. They think Adam simply disobeyed a commandment. But brothers and sisters, something much deeper happened in that garden. Something entered humanity. Fear entered, shame entered, separation entered, disorder entered, and from that moment forward, humanity began to drift. The scriptures say that when Adam and Eve ate from the tree, their eyes were opened, and immediately they hid. Think about that. Before the fall, Adam walked with the Most High openly. No shame, no fear, no hiding, no separation. But the moment corruption entered, the hiding began. The separation began. And this is where the first deception appears. The serpent said, "You shall not surely die." And from the flesh perspective, it almost appeared to be true. Adam did not collapse physically that very moment. His heart did not stop beating. His body did not instantly fall dead onto the ground. But brothers and sisters, death began immediately. Not merely the death of the body, the death of alignment, the death of peace, the death of communion, the death of that bright nature man once carried. The moment Adam hid from the Most High, death had already begun, and Babylon still uses the exact same deception today. You will not surely die. Surely compromise will not separate you. Surely rebellion has no consequence. Surely corruption is harmless. But corruption always creates access. Before the fall, the serpent could tempt Adam, but he could not penetrate him. Adam was aligned, covered, ordered. But once corruption entered, access entered with it. And Babylon still works the same way now. Babylon does not begin with chains. It begins with compromise. It begins with corruption. It begins with distraction. It begins with slowly pulling mankind out of alignment with the Most High. And brothers and sisters, I believe that is exactly what we are witnessing now. Not merely sinful behavior, not merely political corruption, not merely societal decline, but humanity drifting further and further away from divine order. The world calls it progress. But what if Scripture has already told us what it really is? Chapter 1. Before the fall. Now, when most people think about the fall of man, they think about punishment, they think about sin, they think about Adam breaking a commandment. But brothers and sisters, very few people stop and ask, what was man before the fall? Because if we do not understand what Adam was, we cannot understand what Adam lost. Before corruption, Adam walked with the Most High openly. No shame, no fear, no confusion, no hiding, no fragmentation, no separation. Adam was aligned. The scriptures say that the Most High walked with Adam in the garden. Think about that. Man was created in alignment with divine order. not merely alive physically, but spiritually connected, focused, clear, ordered, at peace. And before the fall, the serpent could tempt Adam, but he could not penetrate him. That is important, because corruption creates access. Before corruption entered, Adam was covered, ordered, aligned with the Most High. But the serpent understood something. If he could separate man from alignment, he could introduce disorder into humanity. And that is exactly what happened. The serpent said, "You shall not surely die." And that statement contains the same deception mystery Babylon still uses now. Not outright denial of consequence, but reframing it, twisting it, softening it. Because from the flesh perspective, the serpent almost appeared correct. Adam did not physically collapse the moment he ate. His body did not instantly fall to the ground. But brothers and sisters, death began immediately. The hiding began immediately. The fear began immediately. The separation began immediately. The moment Adam hid from the Most High, death had already entered humanity, not merely biological death, spiritual separation. Alignment was broken, and once corruption entered, access entered with it. That is why Babylon still operates through corruption now, not change first, compromise first, because compromise creates access. And once access is granted, disorder begins spreading through the mind, through the spirit, through families, through nations, through civilizations. And brothers and sisters, the drift has been progressing ever since Eden. Chapter 2. The drift. And once that separation entered the earth, the condition began spreading, not just through individuals, through generations. This is why Scripture repeatedly shows corruption progressing over time. Cain is born outside the garden. Think about that. Adam experienced alignment, but Cain was born into separation. And what entered Cain? Jealousy, anger, violence, murder. The drift was already progressing. Then generation after generation, man moved further away from divine order, until the scriptures say that the thoughts of man became continually evil. Not occasionally, continually. Violence filled the earth. Corruption spread through civilization itself. And brothers and sisters, that is important because Babylon is not merely a city in scripture. Babylon is the organization of the fallen condition, the systemization of separation, the industrialization of corruption. Babylon takes the drift and accelerates it. This is why Babylon constantly pushes distraction, appetite, excess, confusion, dependency, compromise, flesh worship, and rebellion against divine order, because the goal is not merely sinful behavior. The goal is separation from the Most High. And once humanity becomes separated long enough, people begin adapting to disorder. That is why peace feels strange now. Stillness feels strange now. Silence feels uncomfortable now. People cannot sit alone without noise, cannot think without stimulation, cannot rest without distraction, because Babylon trains humanity to remain fragmented, to remain unfocused, to remain disconnected. And brothers and sisters, the frightening part is this. Eventually people begin calling disorder normal, and alignment begins looking strange. That is why scripture says darkness cannot comprehend light, because disorder cannot properly recognize order. The more humanity drifts, the harder truth becomes to receive, the harder conviction becomes to tolerate, the harder righteousness becomes to understand. And this is exactly why the world now celebrates things that destroy it, while mocking the things that heal it. The drift has progressed that far. But even in the middle of corruption, the Most High has always preserved a remnant, a people who still seek Him, a people who still desire alignment, a people who still move against the drift. And brothers and sisters, that is where this story begins turning toward hope. Chapter 3. Seeking Him. Now, brothers and sisters, if the drift is real, then the question becomes, how does man come out of it? because if humanity naturally drifts toward disorder after separation, then flesh alone cannot restore alignment. And this is why Scripture repeatedly commands mankind to seek, pray, watch, endure, meditate, renew the mind, walk in the Spirit, and draw near to the Most High. These are not random religious instructions. These are restoration instructions, because seeking the Most High interrupts the drift. Babylon wants man distracted. The Most High calls man into focus. Babylon scatters attention. The Most High restores alignment. This is why modern society constantly fights for your attention, because attention determines direction. Whatever controls your focus eventually shapes your spirit. And brothers and sisters, this is why people who truly begin seeking the Most High often start feeling separated from the world around them. Not because they hate people, not because they think they are better than others, but because they are no longer moving in the same direction as the drift. The things that once felt normal begin feeling heavy. The noise becomes exhausting. The confusion becomes visible. The distractions become obvious, and people around them begin saying, "You've changed. You're acting different. You're too serious. You're too focused on Scripture." But brothers and sisters, light has always appeared strange to darkness, because darkness cannot comprehend light. Disorder cannot properly interpret order. And this is why Babylon constantly tries to pull people back into fragmentation, back into noise, back into compromise, back into appetite. Because the moment a person becomes still long enough to truly seek the Most High, they begin waking up. Their focus changes, their desires change, their spirit changes. And brothers and sisters, this is why the enemy fights alignment so aggressively, because a focused people are dangerous to Babylon. A people aligned with the Most High become difficult to manipulate, difficult to enslave, difficult to deceive. And throughout Scripture, the Most High has always preserved a people who continue seeking Him even while the world drifts deeper into corruption. A remnant, a separated people, a people moving against the current. And in the next teaching, we are going to talk about the hidden law behind that drift itself. What the world calls decay, what Scripture describes as corruption, and what science calls entropy. Chapter 4. The First Babylon. And brothers and sisters, this is why Babylon in Scripture is much deeper than a physical empire. Babylon is a pattern, a system, a spirit of civilization built outside alignment with the Most High. And if we are honest, the first Babylon was not built in Genesis 11. The first Babylon appeared in Eden, because the core of Babylon has always been the same: separation disguised as enlightenment. The serpent offered Adam and Eve expanded awareness, empowerment, elevation, hidden knowledge. But what actually entered humanity? Fear, shame, confusion, hiding, fragmentation. The promise sounded like freedom, but the result was bondage. And brothers and sisters, that same pattern still rules the world now. Modern Babylon constantly promises liberation, self-expression, fulfillment, escape, enlightenment, freedom from restraint. But the fruit it produces is anxiety, addiction, confusion, depression, isolation, identity collapse, spiritual numbness, and separation from the Most High. The same deception, the same pattern. You shall not surely die. And the frightening part is this: Babylon does not need people to worship Satan openly. Most people think rebellion against the Most High always looks overt. They imagine obvious darkness, obvious evil. But brothers and sisters, modern Babylon often packages rebellion as self-empowerment. Live your truth. Follow your heart. Do what feels good. You were born this way. Live your best life. Do what makes you happy. And underneath all of it, the message remains the same. Follow the flesh. Trust the self. Become your own authority. That is the same doctrine introduced in Eden. The same separation, the same rebellion against alignment with the Most High. Because Babylon does not need mankind bowing openly before Satan. It only needs mankind disconnected from obedience long enough to drift. It only needs mankind distracted long enough to remain separated. Because separation weakens discernment. Separation weakens conviction. Separation weakens focus. And eventually, people become so adapted to disorder that they begin defending the very systems destroying them. This is why Scripture repeatedly shows kingdoms rising in opposition to divine order. Because behind earthly systems, there are spiritual forces influencing them. The prophets would speak to kings, and suddenly their words would move beyond human rulers. Because Babylon is not merely political, it is spiritual. The same spirit that operated through deception in Eden still operates through systems now. The same compromise, the same corruption, the same separation from alignment. And brothers and sisters, that is why the battle for humanity has always centered around worship, attention, focus, and obedience. Because whatever man aligns with eventually shapes him. And the longer mankind remains separated from the Most High, the further the drift progresses. But throughout Scripture, the Most High is always called a people out of Babylon, out of compromise, out of corruption, out of disorder, a people willing to seek Him while the world continues drifting the other direction. And that remnant is where we are headed next. Chapter 5. Come out of her. And brothers and sisters, this is why Scripture repeatedly calls the people of the Most High to separate themselves from Babylon, not merely physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. Because Babylon is not only a location, it is a condition, a way of thinking, a way of living, a way of drifting away from alignment. And this is why the call throughout Scripture is always the same. Return, seek Him, come out from among them. This is why the Scriptures say, come out of her, my people. Because Babylon is contagious, its confusion spreads, its compromise spreads, its corruption spreads, and the deeper instruction appears later through the prophet, come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers. Because there comes a point where separation from Babylon is no longer merely physical, it becomes spiritual preservation, stillness, alignment, remaining hidden in the Most High while judgment moves through the earth. And brothers and sisters, that kind of alignment cannot exist in constant distraction. It requires focus. It requires seeking Him. Because the Most High has always preserved a remnant that refuses to fully surrender to the drift. A people who still hunger for truth. A people who still desire righteousness. A people who still seek alignment even while the world celebrates disorder. And brothers and sisters, that pursuit changes a person. Because the more a person truly seeks the Most High, the clearer the disorder around them becomes. The noise becomes visible. The manipulation becomes visible. The emptiness becomes visible. And eventually, the things Babylon once used to entertain you begin feeling hollow. Because alignment restores discernment. This is why people who begin truly walking with the Most High often feel separated from the world around them. Not because they hate people, but because they no longer resonate with the drift. The world says, follow yourself. Trust your desires. Do whatever makes you feel good. Live your best life. But Scripture says, deny the flesh, renew the mind, seek the Most High, walk in the Spirit. Two completely different directions. One leads deeper into separation. The other leads back toward alignment. And brothers and sisters, that is why this generation feels such tension internally. Because people are trying to satisfy a spiritual separation with fleshly solutions. More entertainment, more distraction, more stimulation, more escape. But separation from the Most High cannot be healed through consumption. Only alignment restores peace. Only alignment restores clarity. Only alignment restores focus. And this is why the world often sees truly aligned people as strange. Because darkness cannot comprehend light. The world has adapted to fragmentation, so focus looks strange. Stillness looks strange. Holiness looks strange. Discipline looks strange. Obedience looks strange. But brothers and sisters, The Most High has always had a people who move against the drift. And in the next teaching, we are going to begin uncovering the hidden law behind that drift itself. The progression of disorder, the movement toward corruption, what Scripture has long described spiritually, and what the world now calls entropy. Chapter 6. The Warning. And brothers and sisters, the frightening part about drift is this: most people do not realize it is happening while it is happening, because drift is gradual. A little compromise, a little distraction, a little corruption, a little separation, and eventually people wake up far away from alignment without understanding how they arrived there. This is why Scripture repeatedly warns about hardening of the heart, because the longer mankind remains separated from the Most High, the more normal disorder begins to feel. Conviction weakens, discernment weakens, sensitivity weakens, and eventually people begin protecting the very things destroying them. The Scriptures describe people becoming stiff-necked, hard-hearted, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of the Most High, having eyes that do not see, ears that do not hear. This is not merely rebellion anymore. This is adaptation to separation. And brothers and sisters, that is why modern Babylon constantly keeps humanity overstimulated. Because stillness creates awareness, silence creates awareness, reflection creates awareness, and awareness threatens Babylon. Because the moment people become still long enough, they begin noticing the drift. They begin noticing the emptiness. They begin noticing the fragmentation, and many people are beginning to feel that now. That strange feeling that something is wrong with the world, that humanity is losing itself, that people are becoming colder, harder, more disconnected, more distracted, more artificial. Brothers and sisters, Scripture already warned us this would happen, because separation progresses if it is not interrupted. The drift deepens if man continues following the flesh. And this is why the enemy fights so aggressively to keep humanity trapped in appetite, trapped in noise, trapped in stimulation, trapped in self-worship. Because flesh constantly pulls downward, but alignment calls upward. The flesh says, indulge, consume, escape, follow desire. But the Most High says, seek, endure, watch, pray, renew, obey. Two completely different directions. One accelerates separation, the other restores alignment. And brothers and sisters, this is why the battle for focus is spiritual. Because focus determines direction, and direction determines what man ultimately becomes. Which is why the next question becomes so important. What is this drift actually doing to humanity over time? What happens when corruption progresses through generations? What happens when disorder becomes normalized? What happens when separation becomes civilization itself? And brothers and sisters, that is where we are going next. Chapter 7. The Edge of Entropy. And brothers and sisters, this is where we must become honest about the condition of the world. Because humanity is not merely becoming more advanced. In many ways, humanity is becoming more fragmented, more unstable, more disconnected from divine order. Technology increases, but peace decreases. Convenience increases, but discipline decreases. Connection increases, but loneliness increases. Information increases, but wisdom decreases. And brothers and sisters, that contradiction should tell us something, because Babylon promises progress, while humanity continues deteriorating internally. People are more entertained than ever, yet more depressed than ever, more stimulated than ever, yet more empty than ever, more connected digitally, yet more disconnected spiritually. And this is why so many people feel exhausted now. Not merely because life is difficult, but because humanity is living outside alignment. The drift is accelerating, And brothers and sisters, this is why Scripture repeatedly warns about becoming conformed to the world. Because the world itself is drifting. Civilization itself is drifting. Babylon itself is drifting further from divine order. And the frightening part is this: the longer humanity remains separated from the Most High, the harder alignment begins to feel. Discipline feels restrictive. Holiness feels extreme. Obedience feels unnatural. Stillness feels uncomfortable. Why? Because mankind adapts to disorder. This is why many people now feel more comfortable, distracted, overstimulated, entertained, medicated, scrolling endlessly, than sitting quietly before the Most High. The drift has reached into the mind itself. And brothers and sisters, the Scriptures warned about this progression long ago. A time where people would love pleasure more than righteousness, resist truth, reject correction, and become lovers of self. Not merely sinful people, but people reshaped by separation itself. And this is why Babylon constantly encourages self-worship. Trust yourself. Follow your desires. Live for yourself. Protect your peace. Do what feels good. Because self-centered flesh naturally drifts away from alignment with the Most High. And once enough people begin drifting together, disorder becomes culture. Then culture begins teaching corruption as wisdom. And eventually, the civilization itself becomes Babylon. But brothers and sisters, the Most High has always preserved a people who refuse to fully merge with the drift. A people who still seek truth. A people who still hunger for righteousness. A people who still desire alignment while the world celebrates separation. And this is why the coming teachings are so important. Because before humanity can truly return, people must first understand the condition they are in. They must understand the drift. They must understand the separation. They must understand what Babylon is doing to the soul itself. And in the next message, we are going to finally name the hidden principle behind this progression: the movement toward disorder, the decay of alignment over time, what Scripture has long described spiritually, and what the world calls entropy. Chapter 8. The question. And brothers and sisters, maybe this is why so many people feel something breaking inside the world right now. Not just politically, not just economically, spiritually. People feel the fragmentation, they feel the confusion, they feel the emptiness, they feel the exhaustion, and many cannot explain why. Because deep down, humanity knows something has been lost, something Adam once carried, something man once possessed. Alignment, peace, clarity, connection with the Most High. And the further mankind drifts from that alignment, the more disorder spreads through every part of civilization, through minds, through families, through nations, through culture itself. And brothers and sisters, what if Scripture has been warning us about this progression from the very beginning? What if corruption is not random? What if the drift follows a pattern? What if separation naturally produces disorder over time? Because the frightening part about Babylon is not merely that it exists. It is that Babylon accelerates the drift. It feeds fragmentation. It feeds distraction. It feeds appetite. It feeds separation. And eventually, humanity begins forgetting what alignment even feels like. People begin adapting to confusion, adapting to noise, adapting to disorder, until peace itself begins feeling unfamiliar. But brothers and sisters, the Most High has always preserved a remnant that still seeks Him, a people who still hunger for truth, a people who still desire alignment while the world drifts deeper into confusion. And that remnant is beginning to wake up now. Not because they are smarter than everyone else, not because they are perfect, but because they have begun seeking the Most High while the world continues seeking distraction. And brothers and sisters, in the next message, we are going to uncover the hidden principle behind this drift itself. The movement toward disorder. The progression of corruption. What Scripture has long described spiritually, and what the world calls entropy. Because once you understand that principle, you begin understanding Babylon differently. You begin understanding the world differently. And you begin understanding why humanity feels so broken now. May our Father's peace be with you. And remember, our Father blesses motion and obedience to His word. Shalom.